Imagine you're a German officer in Sevastopol, 1942. You step out of your bunker to check on your men. You light a cigarette. You take a breath. And in that instant, you're dead. A single bullet through the head. You never heard the shot, never saw the sniper. Your killer is a 25-year-old Soviet woman hiding somewhere in the ruins, maybe 800 meters away. Her name is Lyudmila Pavlichenko, but the Germans call her the Russian bitch from hell, and the Soviets call her Lady Death. In just 1 year of combat, this university student killed 309 confirmed enemy soldiers, including 36 highly trained German snipers. The Germans tried to bribe her with chocolate and promises of becoming an officer. When she refused, they threatened, "When we catch you, we will tear you into 309 pieces." They never caught her. This is the true story of Lyudmila Pavlichenko, the most lethal female sniper in history, a woman who shattered every stereotype, who outshot the best male snipers, who became Eleanor Roosevelt's friend, and who told American men, "Don't you think you've been hiding behind my back for too long?" Stay with me, because what this remarkable woman accomplished will redefine everything you think you know about women in war, about courage, and about what it takes to be the deadliest. Chapter 1. The Tomboy Who Refused to Lose. July 12, 1916. Belayet Tserkov, a town in the Kiev region of the Russian Empire, now Ukraine. A baby girl named Lyudmila Mikhailovna Belova was born into a working-class family. From her earliest years, Lyudmila described herself as a tomboy. She hated dolls and dresses. She loved competition, especially competing against boys, proving that girls could be just as good, if not better. When Lyudmila was 14, her family moved to Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. There she encountered something that would change her life, a boy bragging about his shooting skills. He was boasting, she later recalled, that what a great shot he was. That was enough to send me running to the range. Lyudmila joined a local shooting club, and she discovered she had a gift: natural steadiness, exceptional eyesight, patience. All the qualities that make a great marksman. By age 15, Lyudmila had earned her Voroshilov sharpshooter badge, a prestigious Soviet civil decoration for marksmanship. She wasn't just good, she was extraordinary. At age 16, Lyudmila married a fellow student. They had a son, Rostislav, in 1932, but the marriage didn't last. Lyudmila divorced her husband, and her son was raised by her parents, allowing Lyudmila to work and continue her education. In 1937, Lyudmila enrolled at Kiev University to study history. Her dream was to become a teacher, a historian, a scholar. She competed on the university track team. She continued training at a sniper school. She lived a full, ambitious life. Then, on June 22, 1941, everything changed. Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. Chapter 2. Becoming a Soldier. June 22, 1941. Operation Barbarossa. Over 3 million German soldiers poured across the Soviet border, the largest invasion in military history. Lyudmila was 24 years old, in her 4th year at Kiev University, when she heard the news. Like millions of other Soviet citizens, she immediately tried to enlist. At the Odessa recruiting office, Lyudmila told the registrar she wanted to join the infantry. The registrar looked at this young woman, barely 5 feet tall, and told her to become a nurse instead. Lyudmila refused. She insisted, "I want to fight." The registrar was skeptical. So, Lyudmila pulled out her documents: her sniper school diploma, her Voroshilov sharpshooter badge, her shooting competition awards. The registrar's attitude changed immediately. The Red Army desperately needed snipers. Lyudmila was accepted into the 25th Rifle Division as a sniper. She was issued a Mosin-Nagant rifle, the standard Soviet sniper weapon. A bolt-action, 5-shot rifle with a 4x telescopic sight. Simple, reliable, deadly in the right hands. And Ludmila's hands were very much the right hands. Ludmila Pavlichenko was now one of approximately 2,000 female snipers who would serve in the Red Army during World War II. Of those 2,000 women, only about 500 would survive the war, a 75% casualty rate. But Ludmila wasn't thinking about survival. She was thinking about defending her country, about killing fascists, about proving that women could fight just as well as men. And she was about to prove it spectacularly. Chapter 3. First Blood in Odessa. August 1941, the Siege of Odessa. German and Romanian forces were attempting to capture the strategic port city on the Black Sea. The Soviet 25th Rifle Division was ordered to defend it. For Ludmila's first assignment, she was given a shovel and told to dig trenches. Not a rifle, a shovel. Because despite her training, the Soviet commanders didn't fully trust that a woman could be an effective combat soldier. Then, on August 8, 1941, a fellow soldier was severely wounded. As he fell, he handed Ludmila his rifle. He said, "Use it." He gasped. Ludmila took the weapon, and that day, near the village of Belyavka, Ludmila Pavlichenko killed her first 2 German soldiers, 2 Nazi officers. Clean kills, 1 shot each. Her commanders finally believed her. From that moment on, Ludmila was a full-time sniper. And the kills started mounting fast. In her first 75 days of combat during the Siege of Odessa, Ludmila killed 187 German and Romanian soldiers. 187 confirmed kills in just 2.5 months. Her method was patient, methodical. Ludmila would find a concealed position with good visibility, sometimes in rubble, sometimes in trees, sometimes in sewers or drainage pipes. She'd observe enemy movements for hours, days, studying patterns, learning habits. German officers were creatures of routine. They'd emerge from bunkers at the same times. They'd smoke in the same spots. They'd use binoculars, not realizing the lens reflection marked them for death. Ludmila would wait, motionless, for as long as necessary, and when the perfect shot itself presented, she'd squeeze the trigger. 1 bullet, 1 kill. When she reached 100 confirmed kills, Ludmila was promoted to senior sergeant. But the siege of Odessa was going badly for the Soviets. The city couldn't be held. In October 1941, Soviet forces evacuated Odessa by sea. Ludmila and the 25th Rifle Division were sent to their next assignment, Sevastopol, the Crimea Peninsula, where Ludmila would experience the worst fighting of her life.
Chapter 4. The Hell of Sevastopol. October 1941 to July 1942. The Siege of Sevastopol. 8 months of absolute hell. Sevastopol was a critical naval base on the Black Sea. The Germans needed to capture it. The Soviets needed to hold it. Both sides committed everything to this battle. The fighting was savage. Constant bombardment, urban combat, sniper duels, brutal close-quarters fighting, death everywhere. Ludmila operated primarily as a counter-sniper. Her job was to hunt enemy snipers. The Germans had excellent snipers, highly trained marksmen who were killing Soviet soldiers with impunity. Ludmila hunted them, one by one. A sniper duel is a battle of patience and psychology. 2 snipers, each knowing the other is out there somewhere, each waiting for the other to make a mistake, to reveal their position, to move at the wrong moment. Ludmila killed 36 enemy snipers during the war. Each one was a chess match, hours, sometimes days, waiting, watching, studying. One famous duel lasted 3 days. A German sniper had killed several Soviet soldiers and was dug in on a bombed-out bridge. Ludmila and her spotter searched for him constantly, but couldn't find his position. Finally, Ludmila used a decoy, a helmet on a stick, raised slowly. The German took the bait. He shot at the helmet, and in that instant, he revealed his position. Ludmila fired. One shot. Through the German's head. Dead. By May 1942, Ludmila had killed 257 enemy soldiers. She was promoted to lieutenant. She was becoming famous. The Germans knew about her. They feared her. That's when the psychological warfare began. Chapter 5. The Germans' Desperate Offers. The Germans were starting to panic. This Soviet female sniper was killing their officers, their snipers, their best men. They needed to stop her. First, they tried bribery. Using loudspeakers at the front lines, German soldiers would shout, "Ludmila Pavlichenko, come over to us. We will give you plenty of chocolate and make you a German officer." Chocolate was a luxury in wartime. An officer's position would mean safety, comfort. Many soldiers would have been tempted. Ludmila wasn't. She kept killing Germans. So the Germans switched from bribery to threats. "You will not escape us. When we catch you, we will tear you into 309 pieces and scatter them to the winds." 309. The exact number of her confirmed kills. The Germans knew her record. Ludmila later said she was delighted by this threat. "I was only happy to hear the enemy accurately knew my record." The Germans also gave her a nickname, the Russian bitch from hell. The Soviets had their own nickname for her, Lady Death. But Ludmila didn't care about nicknames. She cared about killing fascists, and she was very, very good at it. Chapter 6. Love and Loss in Sevastopol. During the siege of Sevastopol, Ludmila fell in love. His name was Leonid Kitsenko. He was a fellow sniper. Young, brave, skilled. They worked together, hunted together, fought side by side in the ruins of Sevastopol. In the spring of 1942, Ludmila and Leonid married. A wartime marriage, quick, desperate, because in war, tomorrow is never guaranteed. Shortly after their wedding, Leonid was killed in action, shot by German forces during the siege. Ludmila was devastated. Fellow snipers noted her increased bitterness after Leonid's death. She became even more ruthless, even more determined. In late May 1942, at a meeting of her sniper unit, Ludmila vowed to raise her kill count to 300 within the next few days. She kept her word. From June 2nd to 6th, 1942, Ludmila killed enough enemy soldiers to reach 309 confirmed kills. But her war was about to end. Chapter 7. Wounded and Evacuated. June 1942. The Luftwaffe was bombing Sevastopol relentlessly. Between June 2nd and 6th, German bombers dropped 570 tons of explosives on the city and harbor. Ludmila was in a defensive position when a mortar shell exploded nearby. Shrapnel tore into her face, her body. The wounds were severe. She was evacuated to a field hospital. The doctors examined her and determined that she needed to be evacuated from Sevastopol entirely. The city was about to fall. On a dark night in late June, Ludmila was evacuated by submarine, a dangerous journey through German-controlled waters. But she made it to safety. Sevastopol fell to the Germans on July 1, 1942. Ludmila Pavlichenko's combat career was over. She was 25 years old. She had fought for just 1 year, and in that 1 year, she had killed 309 confirmed enemy soldiers. 309. One of the highest confirmed kill counts of any sniper in World War II, male or female. But the Soviet High Command had other plans for Ludmila. She was too valuable to risk losing. Her death would be a propaganda disaster. So instead of sending her back to the front, they sent her on a different kind of mission, A Mission to America. Chapter 8. Lady Death Goes to Washington, continued. August 1942, Lyudmila Pavlichenko arrived in the United States as part of a Soviet delegation. Her mission, convince Americans to support opening a second front in Europe to relieve pressure on the Soviet Union. Lyudmila was the first Soviet citizen to be welcomed at the White House. She met President Franklin Roosevelt. She met Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady. And the American press went insane. But not for the reasons you'd expect. The American journalists weren't interested in Lyudmila's 309 confirmed kills. They weren't interested in her heroism. They were interested in her appearance. Don't you wear makeup at the front? Why do you wear a uniform that makes you look fat? What kind of skirt do you prefer? Lyudmila was stunned and furious. Here she was, one of the deadliest soldiers in the world, and American journalists were asking her about makeup and fashion. One newspaper called her the girl sniper, diminishing her achievements with condescending sexism. At first, Lyudmila tried to be gracious, but the questions kept coming. Finally, she'd had enough. I wish you could experience a bombing raid. You would immediately forget about the cut of your outfit. To Time magazine, she said, I am amazed at the kind of questions put to me by the women press correspondents in Washington. In the Soviet Union, I am looked upon as a citizen, as a fighter, as a soldier for my country. I wear my uniform with honor. It has been covered in blood in battle. It is plain to see that with American women, what is important is whether they wear silk underwear under their uniforms. What the uniform stands for, they have yet to learn. The American press didn't know what to make of her. A woman who had killed 309 men. A warrior. A killer. It challenged everything they thought they knew about women. Chapter 9. The Chicago Speech. By the time Lyudmila's tour reached Chicago, she'd had enough of polite diplomacy. She was tired of being treated like a curiosity, like a novelty. So, at a rally of American trade unionists in Chicago, Lyudmila delivered a speech that shocked the audience. She stood before a crowd of men, looked them in the eyes, and said, Gentlemen, I am 25 years old, and I have killed 309 fascist invaders by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long? Silence. Complete silence. The crowd didn't know how to react. Then, suddenly, roaring applause, cheering. The men were shamed, inspired, energized. Lyudmila had done what Soviet diplomats couldn't. She had challenged American manhood. She had made opening a second front a matter of honor. During her tour of the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, Lyudmila raised significant funds for the war effort. She was presented with gifts: a Colt semi-automatic pistol from the U.S. government, a Winchester Model 70 rifle with a Weaver telescopic sight from Canada. But most importantly, Lyudmila formed a friendship with Eleanor Roosevelt. Chapter 10. An Unlikely Friendship. Eleanor Roosevelt was fascinated by Lyudmila. Here was a young Soviet woman who had accomplished things most men never would. A warrior, a killer, but also intelligent, articulate, passionate. Eleanor invited Lyudmila to stay at the White House. Despite Lyudmila's poor English and Eleanor's lack of Russian, the two women bonded. They wrote letters to each other about family, literature, peace congresses. Eleanor later wrote, There is something very charming to me about the young Russian woman, Junior Lieutenant Lyudmila Pavlichenko. She has suffered and is suffering something which is universal and binds all the world together regardless of language. After Lyudmila returned to the Soviet Union in late 1942, she and Eleanor continued corresponding. Their friendship endured across the Iron Curtain, across the Cold War, across ideology. In 1957, 15 years after Lyudmila's American tour, Eleanor Roosevelt visited Moscow. She insisted on visiting her old friend. Soviet handlers tried to restrict the visit, but Eleanor persisted until she was allowed. When Eleanor arrived at Lyudmila's small two-room apartment in Moscow, the two women were forced to speak formally in front of Soviet government minders. But Lyudmila made an excuse. She pulled Eleanor into the bedroom, away from the handlers. And there, in private, the two old friends laughed, caught up, and reminisced about the summer they'd spent together in America. It was a small act of rebellion, but for Ludmila, who had lived her entire adult life under Stalin's oppressive regime, it was an act of freedom. Chapter 11. Life After the War. When Ludmila returned to the Soviet Union in late 1942, she was promoted to major. She was awarded the Gold Star of the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor in the USSR. She received the Order of Lenin twice. She was a national hero. Her face appeared on Soviet postage stamps, twice. Once in 1943, during the war, again in 1976, after her death. But Ludmila never returned to combat. The Soviet High Command decided she was too valuable to risk. Instead, she became a sniper instructor, training other Soviet sharpshooters for the remainder of the war. After the war ended in 1945, Ludmila returned to Kyiv University. She completed her degree in history. She became a historian and research assistant for the Soviet Navy. She married again, though little is known about her second husband. She lived quietly. She worked. She tried to build a normal life. But the war had taken its toll. Like so many combat veterans, Ludmila suffered from what we now call PTSD, depression, nightmares, the psychological scars of killing 309 human beings. Ludmila rarely spoke about the war. When she did, she was matter-of-fact, professional. She never glorified killing. She saw it as her duty, as necessary to stop fascism. But she carried the weight of it. October 10, 1974, Ludmila Pavlichenko died in Moscow from a stroke. She was only 58 years old. She was buried with military honors, but for decades, her story was mostly forgotten outside the Soviet Union. Then, in the 2010s, Ludmila's story experienced a revival. Books, documentaries, films. The 2015 Russian-Ukrainian film Battle for Sevastopol told her story to a new generation. Today, Ludmila Pavlichenko is recognized worldwide as the deadliest female sniper in history, and one of the greatest snipers, male or female, of all time. Chapter 12. The Legacy of Lady Death. So what is Ludmila Pavlichenko's legacy? What does her story teach us? First, Ludmila shattered stereotypes about women in combat. In 1941, most militaries believed women couldn't be effective soldiers, that they were too emotional, too weak, too gentle. Ludmila proved them all wrong. She killed 309 enemy soldiers. She outshot male snipers. She endured the same brutal combat conditions as men, and she excelled. Today, women serve in combat roles in militaries around the world. They're snipers, pilots, infantry, special operations, and it's because of pioneers like Ludmila Pavlichenko who proved it was possible. Second, Ludmila's story teaches us about courage, real courage, not the absence of fear, but acting despite fear. Every time Ludmila took a shot, she risked revealing her position, risked being killed by enemy fire, but she did it anyway because her country needed her. Third, Ludmila's story reminds us of the horror of war. Yes, she was skilled. Yes, she was brave. But she was also killing human beings. German soldiers who, like her, were following orders, who had families, who wanted to go home. Ludmila understood this. She never celebrated killing. She saw it as necessary, but she carried the psychological weight of it for the rest of her life. Finally, Ludmila's story teaches us about standing up to sexism. When American journalists asked her about makeup and skirts, she called them out. When American men needed to be challenged, she challenged them. She refused to be diminished, refused to be treated as less than. That's as important as her 309 confirmed kills. Closing. Let me take you back to Sevastopol. June 1942. The city is in ruins, bombs falling constantly, death everywhere. And somewhere in that chaos, a 25-year-old Soviet woman lies motionless, watching through her rifle scope. Patient, calm, deadly. A German officer steps into view, just for a moment, just enough time. One shot, through the head. Kill number 309. That was Lyudmila Pavlichenko, Lady Death, the deadliest female sniper in history. In 1 year of combat, 309 confirmed kills, 36 enemy snipers, 8 months in the hell of Sevastopol. Wounded, but never broken. After the war, she challenged American sexism. She friended Eleanor Roosevelt. She became a historian. She lived with PTSD and depression. She died too young, but she changed the world. Lyudmila Mikhailovna Pavlichenko, July 12, 1916 to October 10, 1974. Soviet sniper, major, hero of the Soviet Union, Lady Death. A woman who proved that courage, skill, and deadliness have no gender. Remember her words to American men. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long? And remember her lesson, that stereotypes are meant to be shattered, that women can do anything men can do, that one person fighting for what's right can change history. If Lyudmila Pavlichenko can do that, what can you do? Lady Death is gone, but her legend lives forever.